And welcome everybody to 2025 Season 1 ProBots. Here we are. We have gone through the round of 8, and I bring you the semifinals. This is where 4 bots have been thrown to the scrap pile in the most spectacular fashion, and we're left with the wheat from the shaft. Or chaff? Who knows? Anyways, these are chaff. That's the one. And these are the better bots. So, at least for now, we'll discover that today. And to bring that and find out what happens next, I bring you our casters, Sword, and Ketroc.
Hello, hello. We are here to find out which of this wheat is gluten-free and then charge a premium for it.
What was it? Chaff? What was it with the C?
Chaff.
Chaff.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, I think this has come up before on ProBots.
Yeah.
I remember this conversation.
I think so. I think you constantly at the last second try and use idioms that you've never heard of before.
I don't know. I've heard everyone's heard of the wheat.
Everyone's heard of it, but yeah.
I don't know. Maybe it's not used. Anyways,
I love. There's a whole like Reddit or like subreddit for like malapropisms or like the bone apple tea. That whole thing where people like hear something, repeat it, but they've totally misheard it.
Okay, but here's I'll you know what? Not to make an excuse for myself. When I was a kid, sometimes you'd hear things and then you'd repeat it, and then that becomes my new way of saying the thing for the rest of my life. That happened a lot. I can't think of any word specifically, but I'm like, you can put actually in the chat if that's happened to you. I've been told I'm a bad comment farmer, so I'm going to try to improve that.
It works. I think it's good to be a comment farmer. Like, and there's ones where people always point out, like, the way that people misheard it also kind of makes sense. Like, for all intensive purposes. People would think, for very important purposes, it's this, but it's not. It's for all intents and purposes and things like that, where the way they mishear it actually makes it another valid phrase. But
I mean, that happens a lot. I think the word I use maybe is like using the word have wrong instead of has. And you get corrected all the time in like chat.
Yeah. See, it's good. We were talking about this last week. You need to engagement farm more.
And now I'm
doing that sort of thing. Exactly. Like I will die on the hill of I could care less, even though it should be I couldn't care less. But people love to comment on it. But there is a lot of evidence that it was originally said sarcastically, where people have now cut off the end of the phrase, which I could care less, but it would be pretty difficult. Or I could care less, but it would be hard, like that sort of thing. And then they just cut off the end. It's like how we say, when in Rome, we don't finish the phrase to say, do as the Romans do. People just understand what you mean. Mm-hmm. So, but there's some evidence that I could care less predates I couldn't care less in writing.
Well, you guys all got a big lesson, but let's talk about a little bit of
history. I just know they'll argue about that in the comments.
So tell that to a British person.
Exactly. Yeah.
And just sort of our top comment farmer here on the show, without a doubt. Ketroc, it's been a while since you've been here.
Yeah, I save myself for the good stuff, I guess.
Yeah, for when your bot's playing.
I was saying, especially when
your that's not going to be good, but that's all right.
Especially when your bot shows up. That's when you show up, is when your bot shows up. So why don't we get a chance to show, if people are the first time you're showing up, we need to see the rectangles. Let's introduce them to the rectangles.
Yes, we have a very rectangular system. Over on the left-hand side, we had the group stage rectangle, in which 4 bots were put into 4 groups of 4, making a total of 16. The top 2 from each of those groups of 4 were able to advance on to our right rectangle, which we are mid-rectangle reduction at the moment. We are in the semifinals there. You went to a round of 8 where the quarters were best of 3, semis are best of 5, and finals will be best of 7. See, I put things in different tenses for fun. It's like has and have.
Yeah, there we go. That's how it works. And here that was our explanation. So before we even get into all of the fun bits, I'm so self-conscious now of what I'm saying because of like I'm like,
you're good.
Is it bits?
Bits? Oh my god, what am I gonna stumble on here on air? But listen, easy enough, guys. Super simple. If you want to support this show, you want us to make more ProBots, like, subscribe, share. Send it to your grandma, send it to your mom, send it to your brother, send it to your sister. Let them see ProBots to see what these bots can do. I mean, Ketroc, you've shared ProBots with somebody, right? At least one person.
Oh yeah, Grandma's a long-time viewer now.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I know you shared like code.
I have definitely. I've shared it at like conferences and stuff, try to get people on. So
Okay.
yeah, I'm doing one next week or 2 weeks from now, and I'll talk about it then.
See,
No.
doing the bot god's work, spreading the gospel. So that's that's one thing you do. You can bring it to your conference, everybody. Bring ProBots to your conference. The other thing you can do, if you actually want to get started, you want your bot to make it here in ProBots, the first thing to do is to build one. And for you, there's a template in the bottom. 30 minutes, you can get up and started. Laughing Games, didn't take him all that long. You should be able to do it too. There you go, super easy. And he doesn't have all that many program. When I started, I had no program knowledge. So, and with all the IDE AIs, you could get it up actually probably sooner than that, I imagine.
I like that you use Laughing Games as the benchmark of like, if even he can do it, then how hard could it possibly be? And like, he seems like a bright young man.
And he is. I would not want to diminish Laughing Games, but he picked it up really quickly. Like, and I say it with love because his bot beat mine. So there's a bit of rivalry between ours because he used my template to beat my bot, and his bot all it does is Zerg Rush. So a little salty there. I definitely was a little salty when I discovered it. I was like, oh, that's awesome. He did it. And I watched the replay. I was like, what the? So, I mean, it really goes to show with, and it's actually a lot of his StarCraft knowledge played around. Like it's not like it was outcoded me. He really did a really good timing rush with Zerglings. Very simple strategy. And it was enough to just, I hadn't coded in the doorman zealot, and so it was easy flood. I think a lot of bots actually don't have that. I think it's fairly rare.
A lot of bots seem to have, they put the zealot there and they don't hold position to
zealot. No, they don't. And it's a
very frequent thing.
Coding that part actually was harder than I anticipated, to be brutally honest, because when to hold position and when not to hold position, like when to let units in. Like if a probe wants to go build, you have to move out of the way for it, right? And so unless you do mineral walk, I think you can mineral walk too, but then you have to like mineral walk. Then you have to tell it to mineral walk to the thing. It's actually kind of a hard problem to solve. If you guys watch my streams on Mondays, you'll actually can probably find out you'll see the VOD where I actually figured it out. It was took us about 2 hours to code that through. So it was a little bit of a difficult challenge to figure it out.
I think if you just give it no commands, it'll get pushed out of the way. So
give what, the unit no commands?
Give the zealot no commands, yeah. And then your units will push it out of the way. So then all you gotta do is hold position when the enemy's nearby.
I had it to actually move. It actually doesn't. It actually, what is it? I have it that it doesn't sit in the spot, and then when an enemy unit comes close, any enemy unit, it moves back into. It moves back in.
Well, that's how a lot of Terran do the depot, right? They keep it down, and then once they see an enemy, it pops.
And that's what I use. I use it maybe 2 to 3 squares away from it, and then, or at least 2 squares, so that most bigger units can fit through. And then when any enemy unit approaches, it just runs back in and holds position. So that's how I ended up solving it.
I want you to code a sentry force field. I don't think I've ever really seen that, like a sentry used to block.
You know what? I have not seen one. You're right. Actually, now that I think about it, force field is probably really, really, really hard. But ramps are in the API, so it's not like the ramps are not there.
You should be able to say a specific location, but
and then. Guardian Shield. We do negatizeZero uses Guardian Shield.
Some use Guardian Shield, and hallucinations.
But
force
fields are tough. I'd like to try force field. That might be good.
I think Tier P and SharkyBot are both using force fields on the main ramp, and then I think Tier P even throws a force field in during engagement just to kind of break up the concave a bit.
It's been a while since we've seen tier P.
Yeah, tier has been in this
Yeah,
tournament.
it's been a while since tier P. But yeah, no one's doing it like parting. No one's like doing like these big force field walls and like Immortal Century elements.
I'm actually gonna put that. It's like if you guys don't know, I also run a series, Bits of Code, where I try these like challenges and build them. So that would actually be a really good episode. I don't have my notebook in front of it. I'll do it when we're on break though. Keep an eye out for that. Why don't we actually take a look at the brackets? How we got here?
So we saw Ketroc taking out Micro Machine in a nice, entertaining 2-1. If you haven't seen that from last week, check out the VOD. That was a pretty good series. And then we saw Zozo in possibly one of the bigger upsets of the tournament so far, taking out Changeling, even getting Eris as one of Changeling's spawns and still beating that to advance on. So now we're going to get Ketroc versus Zozo. And in our bottom half, we've got Xena taking out Benbot in a fairly convincing 2-0, and negatizeZero taking out Kaninana also in a 2-0 in less, I guess, like longer games sort of
I was
style.
gonna say, it wasn't really that convincing.
Yeah, it wasn't like
it was
gone
like
either
way.
Yeah, exactly. There were moments where that one could have flipped somewhere mid-game, but yeah, ended up in negatizeZero's favor. So I think we're in for some pretty good ones today.
Okay, and so in a spectacular fashion, we'll talk about like Ketroc versus Zozo predictions. We'll start with Enderstore because obviously we know what Ketroc may or may not say.
Well, I kind of want to start with Ketroc because he knows whether he knows whether he's got a zealot rush defense or not. And it kind of comes
you though.
Yeah, it kind of comes down to that. It's like literally, do you have a defense against the cheese that Zozo may do? If you do, then I think Ketroc wins. If he's not that confident about it, then who knows?
My bot has multiple builds that will crush that Zealot Rush.
Right.
The problem is my bot picks builds based off of its history, and on the AI arena ladder, Zozo is the exact opposite. It's like the safe macro bot on the ladder.
Yeah.
So
Really?
my statistics are exact opposite of what they should be. So I don't think my bot's going to end up choosing the right builds, but you never know.
So this is kind of like that map that you had where I can't remember what the map was, but like if it was like a 50-50 chance that it would be in your favor or crash your bot or something like that.
Yeah. There was
like
some
a bit
weird
of a
map
coin
like that. I can't remember what. Oh yeah, there's the side to side map.
Yeah,
I couldn't figure out
the
what
double
spawn
top
it spawned in.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a prediction of terms of what we'll say 3-2, 3-0?
I mean, it all depends on the builds that are selected. If it works correctly, I'm gonna guess it's very much in Zozo's favor. But I've been surprised before when my bot does what it's not supposed to do in these tournaments. So now I'm kind of like rooting for that to happen. Yeah. But we'll find out, I guess.
I mean,
a best of 5 maybe is more in your favor because then you could absorb a couple losses before you find the right build.
Yeah.
Like, will your bot actually change within the mid-series?
It will. It kind of. I think it chooses like, okay, what's the highest win rate build, but don't choose the one I just recently lost with.
It pulls it out of the stack.
So it'll probably flip between 2 different builds, whichever the 2 most successful are. Yeah, then we'll see if either of those are good or not.
And maybe Zozo will macro anyway. We've seen that switch up, but yeah, it's been that's part of the guessing there.
And the good news is I think Zozo and my own bot both have a small chance of beating negatizeZero. We both don't lose 100% of our games versus negatizeZero. So yeah, either one moves on, we'll have entertaining finals at least, assuming negatizeZero makes it out.
Oh,
which is another choice. Yeah.
And then Enderstore, what was your prediction?
So I think let's go 3-1 Ketroc. I have faith.
Okay.
I have faith that you're going to stumble on the right thing.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, and so last thing I want to bring up for everyone as well. By this point, you will hopefully see that we have the Humans versus ProBots, and if it's not out, check the links. It'll be, or make sure you're following this channel. I'll be making a post. You will hopefully get a chance to play these bots on new maps in the new patch, and so it's gonna be a little wonky. When we cast it, there'll be things we probably will never have seen because I know we're not playing on the new patch, right? These bots currently aren't playing on the new patch, but for the sake of players playing and getting games done, we're gonna have to make sure they're on the new patch. So make sure you play, submit your games. As Endersford always says, make sure you submit all your games, not just the ones you win, not just the ones you like, but submit them all.
Yeah.
And we'll decide which one to play.
And we'd really like a broad, like, cross section of skill levels. So, you know, if you're bronze, silver, gold, whatever, go ahead and submit stuff, because it helps. Yeah, it helps see a different. People constantly ask, like, kind of what's the level of these bots and things like that, and we often get more like masters and GM submissions than anything else. Because of course those are people that play the most, but you know, it would be good to see like a nice cross section of people. So
so if you're bronze, I want you to play. Like if you're bronze, silver, gold, we're huge demand. We need a huge demand of bronze, silver, gold. So if you're any of those three and you haven't played the game in a long time, give it a shot. Absolutely give it a shot. It's worth playing at least once, one game to see it. And we have I would say pretty good instructions to help you get it started with minimal downtime. So and last but not least, I do a weekly newsletter on keeping up with all the stuff that's going on in ProBots, and plus the stuff that I learn while I'm building my own bot. So you can basically learn vicariously through it. And I try to put it down in things that you can do in your own bot if you wish to try. And I break it down. So if you're working on a bot, this is the newsletter. It's !newsletter if you're in the chat, but if you're in description below watching on the VOD, that's where you get it. Cool. All right, I'm gonna let the casters take us to our first game, guys. I will see you on the other side.
Indeed. So we are going to have Ketroc versus Zozo, as mentioned, up first. And yeah, I think it will obviously come down to what build you stumble on opening, or Ketroc, of course, stumbles on opening. It is a third-party agent not connected to this handsome young man next to me, but perhaps made by him and plays a little like him. That sort of thing. So we've got, Ketroc. Well, why don't you take you?
Strategy safe, macro-oriented fan of Ravens. Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe the safe will come in handy versus Zozo there. Weaknesses: aggression, harassment, Eris. A little out of date. We'll add -0 to that list.
Yeah.
Special, everything coded from scratch. Yeah. So we're not using any like frameworks that give a lot of common functionality, we'll say. So my bot's pretty unique in that way. And then for additional,
I think this note's been here for a while.
Yeah. I actually did do a stream on this last month where I started the initial work on my drop harass with my bot. I was doing like cyclone drops. I wanted to involve like auto repairing SCVs because that's something people don't know is SCVs can repair things inside a medevac. So every time you pick up the cyclone, the SCVs inside will repair it. But that's like, maybe 10% of the way done. Maybe next season we'll see it.
Nice. And his opponent over on the right hand, we've got Zozo. This bot is focused on cheese strategies in the early game. Zozo uses tactics like a probe rush and a proxy zealot rush. But it has added a lot more macro into the game. Facing an opponent playing random is a weakness. However, that was a challenge last week where it took out Changeling. And Zozo was initially meant to just be a sparring partner for another bot, but the worker rush turned out to be unreasonably effective, and basically it became a bot in and of its own, and it's now kind of learning macro as we go along. But it's two cheeses, or two main cheeses. There's variations are quite strong, and the individual probe micro and stuff was very, very strong to begin with.
Yeah. I mean, one of the strongest parts of my bot is its worker rush defense, and that's solely because Zozo exists.
Yeah.
Zozo is just trashing everyone on the ladder with that probe rush for the longest time.
Nice.
All right, we got a 5-game series this time, so we get to see a lot of maps maybe in one of these series. Starting on Thunderbird this time.
Yeah, and some of this can make definitely a lot of difference in terms of rush distances for one. Also on some maps, Zozo will try and cheese in base versus kind of out in front of the third, or different things like that. So some of that could definitely make a difference as we go in. But I think we are ready to get things kicked off with game number 1. Let's hop in.
Ketroc. Zozo.
All right, so there's a probe halfway across the map already.
Yep, it's going to be up to something nefarious, and we'll see what Ketroc ends up opening with, or how quickly it identifies that something is wrong, as a pylon is going to come down right outside the natural.
Yeah, I did see my win rates with the builds I thought would be good against this Zealot Rush, and unfortunately they're like mass losing on the ladder, so I don't think they're going to end up getting chosen.
All right, well, we'll
but the one other thing I'm thinking of is like maybe Zozo knows I have builds that can crush this, and then he'll like try to mind game me and come in with something new.
Yeah, definitely could always deviate towards the macro side. So coming in here now, starting the CC, but that is going to be just out of vision. But 2 probes there. I don't know whether there's any alarm bells that go off with that sort of thing.
Yeah, not too much. I have like I can handle things like Worker Rush, Cannon Rush. I haven't built in anything specific for sort of proxy gate sort of thing.
Does get a wall up here, and I noticed too that that's only 3 gateways on the low ground. Usually it is 4 that Zozo will put down.
That's true. I wonder if they're distracted by this command center that's causing him not to get over there.
And it's been a double pylon there too, whereas often it's the one and then the complete flower around it. Here, probes are moving back. Zealots will start to come out, and the SCV will try and retreat. And so that wall will complete.
Okay, first Marine on the way.
Helps.
So the idea was to planetary that command center, the natural. I definitely don't think that's going to happen. Obviously, if that did happen, that would be great versus this in this scenario. But Zealots will have a lot of trouble getting in here. I wonder if there's going to be a transition to gas and a cyber core, because obviously stalkers will break this wall very simply.
Yeah, and surface area will be a big thing here. If all the Zealots were able to actually get on and attack a depot, they can rip it down pretty fast, but it can only fit a couple.
Yeah, it would have to be an extreme surface area where you can only have like 3 repairing SCVs and like 5 attacking Zealots, though. Because I think an SCV repairs faster and a Zealot does damage.
Like there's 2 on the low ground trying to get up to 2 SCVs that they can see. But now feels like we've hit that point where these can be eliminated quicker than they can be rebuilt. And very often Zozo will do something intentionally to block exactly this from happening, the wall going up. It will put a pylon there, or at least position a probe at the top of the wall to prevent something from being built, but that didn't happen this time.
Yeah. So maybe that command center that does nothing is actually what won the game, or was what's helping Ketroc be in a good position this game, distracting the probes from doing what their actual tasks are meant to be.
Quite possible. And Ketroc seems content with just the 3 Marines. It is enough, but isn't building more there in defense, so not overreacting, just kind of continuing on with what the build was going to be. And no transition on Zozo's side yet. It does transition out, but I find that tends to be more when the flower position is attacked, not like a cancellation of the rush itself. As long as it's still making things and sending them, it seems to just continue to do that.
Yeah, a little interested in what Ketroc's going to be doing with its money. Okay, Ketroc's heavily supply blocked is the problem. So these command centers are actually going to have to be the next set of supply.
Yeah.
Obviously, this is kind of thrown off the build order of Ketroc.
Yeah.
Whatever it was meant to be doing would probably included assuming that there's going to be a low ground command center that exists and things like that. Supplying. supply.
One will go down. Now the third one being built at the time. Zozo has switched to gas and will expand.
Yeah, so there's still actually a window where this is pretty scary for Ketroc. Like,
Yeah.
if he's able to get a cyber core down and start even 3 stalkers, because Ketroc literally has 3 marines and nothing else, just a bunch of command centers and this big supply block is basically what he's been working with the whole game.
Yeah, there's a weird period here where there wasn't even a pylon built back at home for Zozo, so he's got to build that first, and then potentially start a cyber core, which it has now. Yeah. So there's a bit of a delay in the transition period there, in which Ketroc will, despite having other CCs, will just continue to make more. Basically, like you said, treating them like supply depots at this point.
Yeah, so this bot, it kind of just builds command centers when it has extra minerals. And that's kind of how the expanding works. It likes gas-hungry units, so then it ends up floating minerals, and that's when it expands. But given what happened in the opener here, there's just a lot of extra minerals, and has just turning into a lot of extra command centers. So is that 2 stalkers? 2 stalkers on the way, if they get out, and it looks like they might. This might be a little bit of trouble.
It's going to be really close. Now he will stop. Yeah.
That's a big deal.
Yeah. Not canceling those to return the resources either. And that can, of course, throw off thinking that you have a couple of gateways that you kind of don't, that you're about to lose, will also prevent you from building more for Zozo's build. But he's clearly trying to explode in macro as well on the Protoss side of things, going up to 4 bases.
Yeah, if you're a more nasty bot author, what you can do is just leave those gateways there. Because I noticed a lot of bots do not actually cancel the unit that's building inside. Yeah. So it's just kind of like sunk resources, and which they won't get back until the gateway is destroyed.
Yeah, we do have a fleet beacon coming, of course. Because if your early zealot rush fails, immediately fleet beacon.
And you know, Tempest is a major problem for Ketroc, as well as many Terran bots. I would say Tempests are a big problem. So it can get out of hand. And Zozo's being very greedy on his side of the map as well. Yeah, so there's like this window of opportunity where it can take a lot of damage. I'm not sure if Ketroc will take advantage of that. And then the problem afterwards is going to be, you know, can you handle 1 million Tempests?
Yeah, the Banshees can definitely be an issue, given that there won't be really any detection or anything for a while. There is a robo being built, but it'll take a little bit to get something out. But unfortunately kind of stumbled on this base, which doesn't have like a full mineral line or anything to poke at.
Yeah, and I believe the way these Banshees work is like, if the base is there, they'll probably stick around. Of course, as I say that, it just proves me wrong.
I think
it's chasing probes or something.
Yeah, I think that's what lured it. Yeah. Each probe has its own Banshee assigned. And comes a Phoenix. And that one's not poking though.
That was odd.
Yeah. That's a little weird. The other one does get away, and we'll find a mineral line yet again. Good pulling away from Zozo, but this is a lot of lost mining time, while it may not be kills.
Yeah, but there is a full 3-base economy now at Zozo, up to 64 workers, which is actually more than Ketroc. Although Ketroc does have some macro orbitals, which means his worker count can rise quickly, plus the extra mules. So it's still probably an economic lead for Ketroc. But yeah, going straight into Tempest. What will help Ketroc a lot is if he sees one of those Tempests early with one of his harass Banshees. And that will help him not get caught off guard without any Vikings.
Yeah, we'll definitely be able to pump out a lot of Vikings if that's the decision that gets made. And yeah, it's tipped off. The Banshees kind of like lurking around the perimeters, but just not really getting into the core of things. Good placement on a photon cannon there.
Yeah, but now it might get into the core, and now taking some Tempest shots. Yeah. And you can see, did notice the fleet beacon at least, and the Tempest. So those are two things that will tip off Ketroc to start increasing the Viking count.
There comes a cloak.
Nice little defensive setup though by Zozo with a cannon in each mineral line that really negates how much damage the Banshees can do.
Yeah.
I really thought what we need to do in the bot meta is start using 2 units to harass, like 2 Adepts or 2 Banshees or 2 Oracles. That way you can start snapping down workers with one shot.
Yeah, especially Adept. Well, I think negatizeZero did that fairly well for a while. The Adept opening was pretty key. But yeah, you've got to finish things off quickly.
Ketroc being really aggressive. He's only got like 1 or 2 units, but he's still deciding to push across the map here. Which means every time a unit arrives, it gets shot down and has to go home for repair. So
yeah, Ketroc up to 90 workers, still continuing, like you said, with this harassment. And that may have been keeping Zozo home a bit, but it looks like he wants to move out now with 82 army supply. And yeah, the Stalker Tempest combo will be pretty decent against Vikings. As we can see in Exhibit A.
yeah, I mean the army lead must be gigantic. 86 supply to 54. Yeah, I don't like how Ketroc is just pushing out with just like 1 or 2 units at a time. It's just it's not working against especially against the bodies doing the opposite, waiting for a huge death ball before moving out.
Yeah, I think the Viking behavior there is really weird. It was ignoring the Tempest raid in front, and then flying directly over the Stalkers without enough fear.
Yeah, but that was actually a good move. You can see right now the Banshees are doing a lot of work, and that's because the Vikings dove in to snipe the Observer.
I couldn't see what they were picking off there. Okay, that makes sense then. I thought it was maybe the Warp Prism that they were diving for, but yeah, the Observer makes sense.
And this is going to help a lot in reducing the Stalker count. Then the Viking dive on the Tempest will actually be successful. Because because it tried it once earlier. I think it dove like 4 Vikings onto the Tempest, and the Stalkers just ate them all up. Good work taking out everything at that base except for the base itself, but denying the worker count. Killing workers isn't a big deal at this point in the game, though.
Yeah,
Ketroc can build like 15 at a time if it wants to.
Yeah, immediately back to 91, which is arguably too many anyway.
Yeah, so, I've never figured out that bug. It always wants to be at 90, but sometimes it just ends up more or less.
So yeah, good reset there. Still not getting a huge army count out of Ketroc, but now may control the skies a little bit better. More Stalkers being built here. And we'll go for this edge base.
Yeah, weirdly, Ketroc's not building any units.
Yeah.
Am I seeing that right?
Basically, 5 turrets.
Because he has no minerals, and he's got 2,000 gas.
Yeah.
Well, that looks like a problem as well.
Yeah, wants to build everything else. Just trying to make too many buildings basically at once.
I think it's building like missile turrets at all these new bases and end up going broke. Okay. I mean, the good news for Ketroc is that he can lose bases and it's fine. So it's not a big deal that this attack is doing damage as long as it doesn't get on top of the production line.
Yeah,
and now finally 5 Vikings at a time are being built. Or 5, Vikings.
Yeah, I think needs to stall for maybe a minute or so to get enough here. And again, picking off an Observer will be key. Is flying in over everything. There we go. So from the side. Very rarely do you see an Observer get hit but survive.
Yeah, but again, still not much army. And he lost a lot of Vikings just to get that Observer. And there's no Banshees really taking advantage of that right now. The Planetary and the Siege Tank, however, are doing a good job versus these Stalkers. One Banshee finally arrives to help out, but very late considering that there's no detection for all that time.
Yeah, and there's starting to just be so many Tempests that you need a ton of Vikings to actually do much against this anyway. And with some of the Stalkers still below, hard to focus fire down or chase any of these. And Vikings taking a lot of hits.
2-2 is done now for Ketroc, so the Vikings will be a little bit stronger. But yeah, like the economy is, all the tools are there. Ketroc just needs to build up an army, and this is scary because these Tempests are getting very close to getting on top of the production, and when that happens, that's going to be GG.
Yeah, very much. I think if there's another hold here, then we'll have Ketroc kind of kick back into gear, and maybe just kind of an unprompted pullback. But yeah, with a lot of bases still functional, like worker count still perfectly fine. It is really just this mineral recovery. So much gas.
Yeah, the rich gas, Ketroc will stay 3 on gas because, you know, it's such a good deal. But for the other gas geysers, you notice Ketroc's moved down to 1 in each gas geyser because it realizes, hey, I need minerals, I don't need gas.
Yeah, we're now getting 7 Banshees produced at a time. The Viking count is pretty decent. So yeah, I think kind of the next time these get caught out will be an issue. A mothership is on the way for Zozo as well. A lot rests on the 1 observer.
Yeah. Another base going down. Should be okay. Some Vikings peeling off to deal with an observer. Looks like does not get it. I don't think. No. Don't know where those Vikings are going.
Yeah, that's just a very costly snipe on that to lose a whole wave of Vikings to try and take it out.
Yeah, the way this game started, I thought it was looking good for Ketroc, but I feel like it's going to be very difficult for Ketroc to win this one.
I think we're going to come down to like one major engagement here, whether or not the observer gets taken out and then the Banshees can jump on things. But it's being controlled well, and the fact that it is pulling back the observer if it's under threat definitely helps.
Still don't understand why the Vikings are way out to the different base. Leaving the Banshees on their own to deal with, you know, all this anti-air and detection. I mean, the Banshees are doing what they can, but they're mostly dying off like 1-to-1 with the Stalker.
Here comes the Viking wave now. It's really down to can it pick off the detection, and then the Banshees turn it around. But I don't know that there's enough Banshees left anymore.
Yeah, kind of a tough position though for Zozo here. He's kind of getting picked away at it at all sides.
Yeah, the planetaries definitely have been super helpful in keeping Stalker numbers down. But I don't know that there's just enough firepower to deal with the Tempest and Mothership anymore.
Yeah, Observer does go down, so that's something. But yeah, once again, I mean, Ketroc needs to rebuild his army from scratch.
Yeah.
Every time if like he has what it needs is like the army's gone at that point.
Yeah, damage is being done each time. The combination of the planetary with the tank behind it is really effective.
Yeah, that's the one thing that's keeping Ketroc alive is that Zozo is not great with the Stalker usage when he's facing planetaries and siege tanks. I mean, obviously the Tempest can just deal with all that for free, but the Stalkers are diving in and dying.
Vikings just not like, despite clearing out a lot of the Stalkers, there's still just enough there that they can't chase something down or really commit to an engagement, and now we're over top of the production itself.
Yeah, and there's like nowhere for the Vikings to fall back to anymore, and they're not wanting to dive in, so they're basically just sitting there taking damage.
So yeah, well, this may be a long cleanup process, but now that we're over top the production, it is pretty much the end of it. So yeah, really good opening hold from Ketroc, but then I think, threw off the build order enough that there just wasn't, it just felt like the production of units didn't really kick in. And then I think the way that the initial harassment went could have been more effective. There was a period like with no detection and stuff where could have kind of gotten a fair bit more done, but ended up on fringe basis.
Yeah, just the army movement in Ketroc was so bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I think he had all the economy he needed, all the production he needed. He had the upgrade lead.
Yeah.
It was just bleeding units, and there's that one point where like 15 Vikings were not with the army.
Yeah.
There was a point where the Observer was killed, but the Banshees didn't go in. There's this, yeah. And then obviously the calculation to dive on the Tempest requires a lot of criteria, and when there's so many Tempests and so much stalker support, the dive will never actually happens.
Yeah, and we get the mass cleanup here. Definitely the planetaries did really well.
Yeah, planetaries and siege tanks are terrific.
Yeah. We're just playing whack-a-mole here. So much gas left at the end. And I think that was a big part of it, like just constantly other things that Ketroc was doing was draining minerals that were needed for an army.
Mm-hmm.
But constantly building turrets and building more gases and other things like that, draining it down. So at least so the fear kind of is that we don't get now a similar opening that can hold the initial harassment or initial cheese, because now that one's lost, but we may get a better one coming in. But Zozo obviously showing that when it makes the transition, one, it was insanely greedy about that transition. It was just completely defenseless for a long time, but that's usually what you've got to do when you're transitioning out of a cheese. Just kind of say, well, I'm not going to catch up by going standard. I have to leapfrog something. So we saw that coming out.
Yeah. And everything that Ketroc was doing wrong, like Zozo was doing right. Like he was keeping his army together. The stalkers were protecting the Tempest. The Tempests were taking down what they needed to. They got that upgrade that allows them to do double damage to structures, so they kill bases really quickly. And he was never like caught off guard. There's never just like 10 Tempests just kind of hanging out on their own and to die to all the Vikings. So
it seemed to know good pullbacks. When it was losing its stalker coverage or when it was losing its detection, it was just pulling back to his side of the map until it could regroup on that. So we'll see it now coming up on Interloper, and again the map placement positioning where Zozo potentially goes for an initial cheese could make a big difference. We've seen Zozo, particularly against Terran, put the initial cheese in the base. So let's hop in and see what it does.
Yeah, let's do it.
Ketroc. Zozo.
And this is what I kind of anticipated it may do on this map. I think it's done that before, where it just goes for the in-base cheesiness. If the probe itself can be taken out, then that's huge, but a second one does come in as well.
Yeah, so I know my bot won't care about the gateways, which is a problem, but we'll care about the probes. As the things it's getting cannon rushed right now.
Yeah.
But sense. So many probes here that I don't think he's going to have any issue getting the gateways up.
Yeah, Zozo does not underdo it with this sort of thing. And then, is there a potential defense? Usually it's a bunker that we tend to be kind of screaming for on this, but it doesn't look like there's going to be one, and isn't anything producing in that first barracks yet either. Ketroc did call out at the beginning that it was going to be a mech all-in, which is not ideal. Their Marine does start. Yeah,
and there's this bug with Ketroc where when a probe leaves and re-enters, like what Ketroc considers like the danger zone, it's like extra SCVs getting like assigned to them. So instead of one SCV chasing a probe, like there's 4 or 5 because he keeps going up and down that ramp.
Yeah.
So there's actually no workers left to mine. Not that it would have helped anyways. I don't believe, a couple of Marines would be helping much here.
Yeah, I think
although it looks
one...
like Ketroc was planning for a one base build, so there would have been immediate barracks and factory units.
Yeah, we're getting a bit of a blurry look at things now, but I think people can surmise what's happening. That we're going to get the zealots chasing things down and get into the minor line as another Marine pops out.
So let's say it looks like there's one Marine there. It's hard to say, but and it's actually still alive somehow. But no mining out of Ketroc, and this is going to be GG.
Yeah, I think this is Zozo's riskier but more dangerous version, and we've seen it against Terran a number of times, that it just puts it in base, eliminates the wall off as a potential threat, and then ultimately takes things out. Ketroc will lift off, at which point Zozo goes and scours the map, but it will eventually make something to deal with this. It's already taken gas. Yeah, it tends to do Stargate and then come with a Phoenix or two.
Ketroc actually won't float. Like you can see right there, it's trying to land the command center, but it's trying to land it where the where the gateways are.
Yeah,
so
makes sense. That one was a quicker one, and that was kind of the threat that Zozo tends to have. I don't know when it makes. I think it may be map dependent, because I think it was that map that I'd seen it do it on before, the in base, and it may be based on the space that it has, that it thinks it can get the first pylon down maybe without being seen or something like that. So interesting, but it's definitely effective. It just kind of takes away the Terran #1 defense, which would be to wall off.
Yeah, I mean, it is a cheesy bot, so I bet it knows a lot of cheesy specific scenarios. So maybe he's like, okay, on certain maps I can't, like the wall off at the top of the ramp might be done by the time my probe arrives.
Yeah.
So on this map though, I can get there quick enough to get inside the base. So there could be something like that, just a shorter rush distance, so you can go inside.
Yeah, makes sense for sure. We're gonna hop onto Abyssal Reef next, see if Ketroc can figure something out to stop a 3-0 and perhaps mount the reverse sweep, but we'll see.
Yeah.
Will the water help?
We'll find out.
It's very often a non-factor, but we'll see.
Just stay on the far side of the reef and you'll be safe.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see what Ketroc calls out as a build early on in this one. It may make a difference, but understanding the threat will definitely help. Let's hop in and find out.
Ketroc. Zozo.
Yeah, so this is probably good evidence that Zozo plays different on the ladder, because Raven is maybe the least cheese-proof build that Ketroc has. Probe going all the way into the main base.
Yeah, but we've already got a pylon and a gateway at home.
Yeah, that's interesting.
So it looks like it is not going to cheese. At least not in the same way. And it is interesting to kind of deviate from that, given that the last two were successful, at least as far as it's concerned. Even though the first one didn't work, it would still view that as, well, I won that game. So I don't think it knows like how it won. It's just kind of a 1 or a 0.
Yeah. Yeah, but I wondered about this though. Like Zozo, I haven't followed him too closely, but I suspect he's just better at like outthinking his opponent when it comes to tournaments. So I wondered if he'd tried to get like a step ahead of Ketroc, because he must know that there's certain builds that I have that beat the proxy gateway. So maybe he like anticipated that I would choose those builds for the tournament, and he would have like backup plans and stuff.
Yeah, and I think there is some evidence that, well, we mentioned the last one, that he does some builds map specific as opposed to like, I lost my last game, therefore I'm going to do this. So it may be that this is what was decided for this map, and you could kind of see why. There's less of a good location for the Zealot Star, and maybe you're concerned about, like, yeah, just the configuration of bases, that you're more likely to get choked off or something like that.
Yeah, so yeah, I wonder if he'll go into, like, I know in the past Zozo's go to macro build used to always be like a immortal all in, but yeah, he seems like the Tempest now, and based on that Stargate, I'm guessing that's the path he'll be taking.
Indeed.
Don't think this Raven build is going to be that strong, however, versus Tempest. I mean, obviously, it'll have the starports, it'll have the ability to build a bunch of Vikings, but it won't have that a bank of cloaked Banshees that can deal with the Stalker count.
Yeah, which was definitely key in that first game, to be able to reset that. Shark flying around our logo.
It is less likely Ketroc will run into mineral issues, though. When you're building a bunch of Ravens, usually you got plenty of minerals.
Yeah, that definitely was a problem before. And yeah, I think that the Ravens are just, they're more anti-bottish because of the way that the turrets work, that it just kind of can surprise you with units that weren't there before. And I think that's often harder for people to cope with. Like, they go to commit to something, and then suddenly there's a thing here that there's no benefit in killing, but came out of nowhere. And you see a weird mix of retreating versus, well, I can kill that down quick enough to accomplish something, but usually then the army's kind of retreating at that point.
Yep, and it looks like this build does have its siege tank flag turned on, so there will be defensive siege tanks, similar to in Game 1. That came in really handy versus Zozo. That was probably the one thing that was going well for Ketroc.
Yeah.
Was the planetary tanks was just destroying stalkers like crazy. Probe hunting around, looking for expansion bases, which is always nice. We don't see much hidden bases out of the bots, but might be something someone can bring back. There's only a handful of bots who are always looking for it.
Yeah, it used to be the case. Yeah, definitely used to be the case that people did a lot more. I always found, though, in those games, even if someone was looking for it or not, there was no... The bot would hide the base, but then not really understand that it was hidden, and I shouldn't reveal this to people.
Just start sending probes up there.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, yeah.
Like, just the path of, like, units and everything was like, they weren't trying to ever avoid its detection.
Okay, third base going down now for Zozo. So Ketroc ahead economically, as you would expect if you're going Mass Raven. But obviously the army supply should be well in Zozo's favor. Yeah, up 10 army supply at the moment. Worker count's pretty even, which is, I guess, good for the Terran in general. Because Terran gets mules.
Indeed it does. But yeah, both bots sort of chilling for the moment.
Another issue is, since there's no Banshee harass, is Ketroc may get caught off guard by the Tempest. Maybe the first time he gets a glimpse of the Tempest, there's going to be like 8 of them in his base. And starting your Viking production at that point is probably not the best.
Yeah. That would be a mild issue, at least.
Yeah, I think this is a build I originally built as kind of like an extreme turtle style to try to deal with Eris, or maybe a Spiny back then. So it's very heavy in the ground defense, so planetaries, siege tanks, liberators, all things that don't do well versus Tempests.
Yeah, it may not do well on the Tempest part, good on the Stalker part, potentially, though.
Yeah, that's true.
And I think that may be the key to it. It was obviously the key in the first game, was to clear out the ground so that the Vikings could actually be effective, because Zozo will just pull stuff back, and then you're kind of flying over a bunch of little laser bots on the ground. we'll see. Zozo continuing to expand economically as well.
Yeah.
And usually Ketroc's very cost efficient if you end up in like a split map situation. Largely because of things like Ravens that just spend energy.
Yeah, but I mean, Tempest changed that a lot because the Tempest forces the Terran to engage the Protoss.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're just constantly picked away at from range. So, where Ketroc likes to be like the one that's always kiting with its units and things like that, it doesn't work when the opponent can outrange you. And yeah, I'm not even sure if Ketroc has many starports yet. It certainly doesn't have any Vikings yet. Spending all of its money on expanding planetaries and
not a lot of army here yet, but there is like a lot of this good static defense at the very least. Not a tank at that particular base. Some of the other bases very greedy.
Missile turret's actually getting some working on
really
the Tempest, which is kind of funny.
Yeah, and they're absorbing the fire at the moment. There comes the tank, but it retreats back up the ramp for the moment. And
yeah, I think that tank wants to get in position behind the planetary, but can't get there at the moment.
Nothing to defend the planet, but looks like Zozo's just going to leave. He did that a lot in the first game, like basically kill a PF, but then go home.
Yeah, I don't mind it. Obviously, it looks a little silly in that particular moment, but I think it's based off the fact that his stalkers are all retreated. All of them lost all their shields and they all left.
Yeah.
And he's like, okay, Tempest without stalkers, that's not a good idea, so let me take the Tempest home as well.
And now at least we've got the repair of a few more SCVs that came in.
Siege tank got in position as well, so
yeah,
that's going to be it for the stalkers, and let's see if the Tempest decide to leave or whether they want to pick up that planetary.
They want to do both. Yeah.
Oh, they get it as they're leaving.
Got the old Parthian shot.
Viking production has finally started, but yeah, only 3 Vikings at the moment. 4 more on the way.
Yeah, the Tempest ability to kill buildings so quick is coming into play there a lot. But a big stalker cleanup. Army supplies are actually even now.
So up to maybe 6 Vikings. Almost enough to dive Tempest that don't have any support. Maybe one more wave. But all the workers are getting knocked down as well, which is...
Yeah, and Tempest already were going home before they moved out, but at least not losing that baits as well. But these will retreat for more stalker support.
Yeah, the other problem here for Ketroc is that Zozo's economy has not been hurt at all, so... Yeah. Without losing any Tempest and the Tempest pulling 2 at a time, it's going to get to the point where the calculation of when to dive Tempest is going to come up with almost a never.
Yeah, and Blink will soon be added to the stalkers here as well. That was a bit of a double-edged sword in game number 1. It almost seemed to separate the stalkers more than it particularly helped them. But yeah, it does help in the retreating. Here, the tank again up front helps out. And the Liberators also with their very effective little zones.
Yep, so let's see what happens when these stalkers go down, because I think that's what's happening at the moment. Stalkers seem all dead. Now will the Vikings attack? No, but the Tempest will retreat.
Yeah, and it feels like they should at this point. That some of the Tempests have been pulled back as well, so this is a smaller group, but it's still a pretty formidable one.
Yeah, I know it's some sort of calculation on like Viking to Tempest ratio. And then there's also a check to see, okay, how much ground support can shoot up and kill the Vikings. Yeah, that probably might have been the best opportunity for Ketroc. I think from this point forward, it's just going to keep getting worse and worse. Tempest count is still... I think he lost 1 to a missile turret at one point, but other than that, still remaining very high. 36 stalkers. Killed or alive? What was... I think that must have been dead.
I think that was the kill. That was the kill.
Okay, so 2 Tempests went down and 36 stalkers. So
yeah.
Maybe this will be okay. I feel like this will be worse scenario than the previous attack, though.
Yeah, because we don't have the tank or liberators there to support, which did a ton of damage. So I don't know that the stalkers are going to get cleaned out as well.
Yeah, as long as the Vikings don't die. And then one nice thing is, since I'm not going Banshees, the Vikings are not diving in to kill an observer, because they don't care about that anymore.
Yeah.
So at least the Vikings are staying alive, the count's not getting reset over and over again. Looks like this is going to be the dive, though.
Yeah.
No stalkers are dead.
No.
I mean, it's better than not diving at all, which is nice.
Yes.
But, because that's what happened in the previous game.
To some extent,
25 Vikings did nothing for the entire game.
Yeah. Yeah, in this case, had it done that the last engagement, then I think we're in a different game. But, yeah, with all the stalkers still alive, that didn't work out as well.
Even like after this attack would have been nice. Like at least let the planetary pick off a few stalkers.
Yeah, yeah. I think if that base had tanks and liberators still there, because the stalkers don't have a lot of. They keep pulling back out, but they don't really have a lot of self-preservation to them. They will just die, and this is kind of again something we've been waiting for, the turrets coming down, but that hasn't really happened enough yet.
Yeah, Starboards were very busy building Liberators and Vikings, so the Raven count, which was... I mean, this was supposed to be a mass Raven game. Ravens never were high priority. And it looks like another base of workers is about to die. Yeah, another spot where there's no stalkers left, but the Viking count just isn't there. I mean, it's not 100% over. Obviously, the economy of Ketroc still exists somewhat.
Yeah. Yeah, there are the fringe bases.
Yeah, and like Tempest did die. It was a terrible engagement for Ketroc, but he probably lost about half his Tempest. And no, he only lost 3. Okay. Yeah, that's bad. It's probably like 20 Vikings for 3 Tempests. I remember even in the best case scenarios, you never traded well Tempest versus Viking. You just got to hope you're ahead of the Protoss player and could afford taking bad engagements. But not the case here. Okay, so it looks like he will be attacking it on a base that has... Where's he going? To the natural, maybe? Does the natural have liberators? It has siege tanks. Or it's going for the third. It's hard to say where it's going, but what Ketroc really needs is the stalkers to die very quickly. Still 3 Vikings at a time. There's some siege tanks and the liberator. Okay, this might work out. That's the Viking count up to, not very high yet. Stalker's mostly staying alive even though they lost a lot of their shields.
Yeah, are blanking back. The planetary does fall here.
Yeah, it's gonna be tough. I mean, Zozo's maxed out now.
Yeah.
Yeah, every engagement is just like the worst case scenario. A blink forward is not great for Zozo. The Vikings, I think a couple of them died, but the count should still exist somewhere off screen. Yeah, no vision of these stalkers, so
yeah,
3 damage unless they blink back.
Yeah, and I don't think we're going to get an engagement at all. I think it's just too much.
Yeah, the Viking count is 11 now. It definitely has to happen now. The stalkers are mostly dead. Yeah, I don't think there's enough Vikings, unfortunately. Like, this is literally last chance. You have to wipe the entire Tempest count right now. Send Zozo back so you can rebuild the army. But it's just, Ketroc's just deciding he doesn't have enough Vikings.
Yeah, that basically have to be a full dive with full turret deployment beneath everything, and Zozo just sits there or something.
And it will do that when it dives, yeah. Sometimes I just wish I could take control and say,
yeah,
whatever calculation you have for diving, it's got to be now.
That's often the case. That would be interesting to see in some case. Do they still have that feature where you can enter a replay and take control at some random time, or like time that you choose?
Yeah.
That was always a cool thing that nobody ever really used.
I use it a lot. I'm trying to think if it's specific to BattleNet or not, or whether you can
Yeah.
watch a replay locally and do that.
Yeah, I don't know if it probably is a BattleNet thing because you can do it with another person.
Yeah.
But,
Once again,
yeah.
20 Vikings dying to nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh well. GG.
Yes, indeed. So it will be Zozo with the 3-0 here.
Mhm.
So close, definitely the best chance in the first game where
Yeah.
the cheese was stopped. In this one, the cheese was just kind of skipped and went into that macro build anyway. And yeah, just the way that the Vikings chose to engage at times that they did was not the best, and then choosing not to at other times. So there we have it. We'll have Zozo on as our first finalist. So originally a pro rushing bot, then a zealot rushing bot, and now apparently a late game macroing phenom
Yeah.
here. So even when the cheese fails, transitions to a perfectly fine macro game and just carries on. So congrats to Zozo. It's a good time for people to hit that like and subscribe button and hit the bell next to the thingy to notify on stuff, and check out all the stuff that Drekken plugs, the tutorials for building your own bot. And of course, if you do want to get involved in the humans versus ProBot stuff, there will either be a link in the description or there's going to be some post out soon on how to join that and send in your replays. So check that out. We're going to cut to a quick break and we'll be right back with our second match. Oh yeah, here's a replay before we do that. And this was game one, yeah. Kind of the tail end of it once we got on top of everything.
Yeah, just really had to take advantage of those moments where the stalkers were all dead.
Yeah, definitely. Like that's the key. And then here losing a lot of stalkers to this natural position, but just not anything there. That was probably the one opportunity. The army supplies were even to really take it out, but then here's the dive with the most
at the worst
most stalkers available. Yeah.
There's probably a moment in time where I couldn't see anything at the bottom of the cliff,
Yeah.
but then all the Tempest shot.
Yeah.
So my bot was like,
You're
oh,
like,
there's
go.
5 Tempests there and nothing else. Time to dive.
Yeah. Makes sense. Makes sense. And and then here comes the final pushes here. The activated mothership.
Yes. Stalker surviving under siege tanks. Don't see that very often.
Yeah. Good old cloaking. And the turrets were gone by then too. So we'll be right back from a break shortly with negatizeZero versus Xena. Stay tuned.
And we're back. Welcome back, everybody. Hopefully you had a good long break, but we're returned back for the second half of our show. If you're just tuning in, I'm Drekken, and I am joined with the casters, Sword and Ketroc. Welcome back, boys, for part 2.
Howdy.
Hello.
I have to say, Zozo is turning into quite the dark horse in this tournament. So that is a bit of a surprise, like the upset with with Changeling, and now taking out Ketroc. Is this his furthest run?
He's had some deep runs in tournaments, so he's a scary cheese bot, that's for sure.
To finals though, this is a finals. He's in the finals now.
I forget if it was finals or semis before, but it was at least one of those. Yeah,
semis for sure. And those were pretty mighty games that we had seen. I was pretty impressed with Zozo switching to macro. I actually, to be honest, thought that would be, it would probably be an L for it, because it was doing so well. The micro you pointed out in the short that, it was kind of surprising for it to switch to a macro, even though it had won the 2 cheese rounds. So I'm curious to know Zozo's thought process behind that.
I think it was by map. Something tells me that those were map specific, and it was just whenever it came up, it was doing it on that map.
Okay, all right, that's for sure. I didn't take that into consideration, that map had been maybe the trigger for it to decide. And I wonder maybe if it actually overrides it, if it's like do cheese, but if it's this map, don't do cheese. So
because I think like from game number 2 where it builds in base, like we've seen it do that on that map before. So I think it may have even though it's the same cheese, I don't think it is the same cheese. I think it's a different, because like the game 1 was a 3 gateway cheese, this one was a 4 gateway in base versus out of base. Even though those are the same, they're not the same. I think it's 2 distinct builds that are done differently.
The thing is, I had interpreted that it had done it because it thought that was going to be like, to mix it up, but still keeping the same cheese family.
Yeah.
But it may actually be because it was just, this map is better for this cheese versus this map. And it's, that's thinking like a player in many ways.
Mm-hmm. Think like a machine. Think like a machine. Yeah.
And then Ketroc's bot unfortunately had a little bit of stage fright when it came to diving. So
yeah. And then when it didn't have stage fright, it was a poor decision.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
Actually, could you get
brave at the wrong time?
Fright at the wrong times.
Yeah.
Actually, are you able to even give us a little bit of a brief enlightenment of how your just the decision making, the logic with that is, like when he decides to jump?
It typically never jump if there's a lot of protection around it, like overcharged batteries, a lot of stalkers, things like that. And then if there is less stalkers, then it dives based on kind of the ratio of Viking count to Tempest count. So
do you give it a weighting based on the unit?
I think I consider like all capital ships the same. So if it's like a mothership, 3 carriers and 6 Tempests, I just consider that like 10 capital ships. So then maybe it thinks, okay, I need at least 22 Vikings to fight 10 capital ships or whatever the math is on it. And it just never reached that number at the right time. So
okay, so the capital ship. So you don't wait like maybe Phoenix is different than say maybe Vikings or anything like that, or Mutas or anything like that. You don't.
Yeah, it doesn't consider those too much. Phoenix are more considered a support unit, like Stalkers are. Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe I should change it to be more willing to dive even when it doesn't have the numbers if the Tempests are not supported.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Even if he has enough Tempests to kill all my Vikings, if there's no Stalkers in the area, just go for it anyways.
And
like you knock the numbers down.
And is that like a heat grid or heat map in with that in terms of how you determine if it's supported?
No, for this one it's literally just counting the units that I can see.
So it's literally the amount of units. Okay, got
it.
Yeah. Fair enough. Okay.
So here's like the midpoint of the Tempest ball, and then what's around that midpoint?
What's around
like how many Stalkers around that, how many Tempests around that?
All right, you
things
see
like that. Yeah,
a straight up unit quantity amount.
I mean, it's also code I haven't touched in forever. I mean, I think I built that code to beat Yamabushi, if you remember that bot from way back in the day. So that's probably the exact same code as from back then. Yeah.
Yeah, that's like 5+ years. Absolutely. And so, we're in our second half of our show. And if you want a bot that looks and feels and may even be able to beat Ketroc, you should start off with a template. We have a lovely, easy template to go. Less than 30 minutes, you can get yourself a bot up and running. Maybe not win the ladder, but at least it'll be running. It'll do something, and you can find that in the description below. And if you want, there's also a guide that follows along with that. So all that good stuff down there.
It is very rewarding. Like making the top of the ladder is probably second place to putting up a bot that actually does something. It feels great when you see it. It's like, oh, it's actually attacking. It's actually building markers. It's like, it feels awesome.
I have to agree. When when I got from even getting my first unit to build, I think was the happiest time of my building a bot, because and if you guys start off a template, you'll see it too, is when you pop it up, it just mines, and then you're like, I don't know how to get it to do anything. And there's a little bit of a learning curve, and with the templates and the guide, I hope to lessen it. That's actually why I did it, because when I did it, it literally felt like looking for a light switch in the dark, because there's a lot of documentation you gotta dig through. There's a lot of I don't know, I guess it's like you dig through old code from other bots. Like I remember I took apart Bernie's bot to understand how it worked. That's how I had to do. I had to take apart his example bot to understand, how do I tell it to attack? How do I tell it? Even though there was documentation, I didn't know how to navigate the documentation as a new person to coding and everything. I just had to, it's like, okay, this is this bot. I know this bot attacks somehow. Control F for the word attack, and and reverse engineer like how that works. And that was quite a learning curve for me as a person starting out. So
Yeah, building a Python bot is a great way for someone who's new because there's so many examples, so much documentation, a really nice framework that makes things nice for you. And then even things like ChatGPT is knowledgeable about the Python framework, so you can ask it questions and it'll actually give you answers.
So yeah, if you guys have Cursor or Windsurf or any of those things, they are familiar with the actual frameworks and stuff. So when it first started, it didn't, but over time, for whatever reason, they've become much more knowledgeable, and you can use it to. I'm gonna actually do a whole video whether or not you can vibe code with a bot from scratch. I'm super excited. That's one of my next videos.
And then for a more experienced developer, it's really nice that these bots you can write in any language you want. So it's like, hey, I want to try out Go, like one of these new languages like Go or Rust for the first time. It's like this is a really fun project Haskell. You can do. And well, no, Haskell's new, but it is cool. We'll say.
I still think COBOL.
We do not have a COBOL.
We gotta have a COBOL eventually.
Although I've had to touch COBOL at work recently, so it's like, why does it still exist?
It always exists in any old like financial system or something. There's still
somewhere down there in the basement with a dot matrix printer somewhere.
Probably still working on Y2K issues.
I definitely find it if you're actually looking to like actually keep your coding skills up. Like I know some people who you work with, or maybe you might work with a specific code at work, and you don't actually get a chance to. I once met someone who. They code at work, but none of their products get like shipped. And so they don't really get a rewarding satisfaction because like things get scrapped. A bot is a good way to see your work on screen, do the things that you wanted to do. And so I find that to be, it's actually like the new age, like I guess maybe in the 70s or 80s, people would like make little robots or make like, people still do it now with breadboards and stuff like that. And build little robots to play around with. Same thing, just digital. So
it's nice to work on your coding skills, but you're not motivated, because the nice thing about building a bot is it's kind of addictive,
True.
As you get progress and as things get better, you think of more ideas and you want to work on other things, and it can keep you engaged pretty well.
But the thing I always tell people who are starting new bots, scope it out, especially your first bot. Create a start and end point so that you don't get. I see this a lot with new bot authors. They get like stuck in the weeds, and they just like spend almost 20 hours just trying to macro one marine before they figure out how to like build anything or build any sort of econ. So kind of scope out your milestone, just like any project, so that you can get that feedback loop. Because if so it can also be frustrating too. It's gonna be a source of frustration, which is part of any, I think, rewarding project is a little bit of frustration. But I would hate to see any of you out there give up too soon before we can cast your bot. So, cool. All right, so we're in our second half, and let's talk about how we got here to this second half with our brackets.
Indeed, we had Xena with a pretty solid 2-0 over Benbot. There, it ended up rolling, I think, the Zerg twice and just kind of overwhelming with a really good 200 supply max out against Benbot's defenses. And on the other side, we have negatizeZero with a still pretty commanding, but not quite one-sided or anything, defeat of Kaninana. So both of these are going to be interesting. Xena is the last random bot that we have left standing, and its Zerg is definitely feels stronger than the rest of it. So I think the races rolled in these 5 games are going to make a difference, but negatizeZero's quite strong.
And also, just to keep out for audience, negatizeZero has been touted as the bot to beat. So it says a testament to Kaninana, because even though it was a 2-0, I think Kaninana definitely held their own against negatizeZero, and it kind of shows that caliber of the other bots here in the semifinals. So negatizeZero, I would say, I'm trying to think how many times negatizeZero, before they went sort of offline for a bit, they dominated the top ends of ProBots for quite some time, only challenged by Eris. And we'll see now. Predictions: Xena versus negatizeZero. Ketroc?
Yeah, I'm actually just looking at Xena now.
Okay.
just to see when it was last updated. Because that's impressive that Xena 2-0'd Benbot BC. I think in the past, Xena probably would have been considered an underdog in that matchup. So there's a lot of things about Xena I think are really impressive. So if it just kind of gets rid of all those holes in its game, I think it has the potential to be one of those bots that could challenge or even beat negativeZero. So I'm not sure if it's there yet, but maybe. I don't know. I could definitely see the engagements going well for Xena, because Xena has really cool micro.
I would say Xena, and I hope I'm not going to oversell it, but I find Xena to be one of the most advanced bots that doesn't win consistently. And I say that because we've spoken to Soup Catcher and Bread Lob, and some of the stuff they have inside that bot to like improve that bot is just out of this world. Like I feel like we'll talk, I'm not gonna throw any shade at you, Ketroc, but like, you talk about you have code that is like, 5 years old. I find that like Xena is constantly trying to push the boundaries of their code all the time, right? In comparison. So.
I think that may relate to almost the scoping issue that you were talking about, which is their scope is everything perfectly on a random bot. And that's just a really high bar to do. I think if you put that same effort into a single one of the races or like a real matchup, then maybe you'd perfect it. But when you're trying to do absolutely everything all at once, it's hard to be consistently good.
Yes, that's very true. And the things they started as a random bot too, unlike say Changeling, which were 3, 1.5 like really good bots, and then like, we combined into a single bot. Xena, if I remember correctly, was purely from the very beginning probably the first random bot. Yamabushi wasn't. No, Yamabushi was Protoss then. Yeah, I think it was the first random bot that came onto our scene. So. Fantastic in that way. So last but not least, to remind you all to subscribe and also check out my newsletter. The newsletter is called Read Me, so those of you can feel that little cheekiness of it. And I keep I take up a little bit of the highlights in this analysis of I think last time I just did a breakdown of PhantomBot and how PhantomBot optimizes their reverse engineered, because they're open source. It's reverse engineered how PhantomBot maximizes their control matrix for units and decides what units go where. It's actually pretty cool. I'm pretty proud of that thing. So check that out.
Nice.
Yeah, cool. All right, everybody. So we're ready. I'll get you guys going on to the next couple of games. Xena versus negativeZero. Casters, take it away.
Take it away, we shall. We're going to have Xena against negativeZero. I do think that a lot of this is going to be dependent upon race roll for Xena. And negativeZero, I don't know how it does things for random, whether it makes a decision regardless or whether it scouts first to try and pick things up. But we've got Xena here coded in Haskell. Actually, these are two of the languages mentioned. So aggressive with occasional surprise macro. I feel like the macros become more prevalent more lately. Adapting and evolving to late game is considered a weakness, but again, I feel like that's a little less true. So maybe like super late, that's true, but is decent into the mid. Sophisticated resource manager and build planner, assuring that the build doesn't get stuck or starve out important tech when conditions change. Fancy, and so this is the micro that Draken was talking about. Good concave building, good micro. It does control a lot of units very well.
Yeah, we did a post bots on that resource manager. It's really cool. It's not as simple as just like a build order. It's more like giving weight to different things you need to build, and then it just making really smart decisions on basing on your resources and what's priority. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Makes sense. And again, built from scratch, not using any third-party framework in Haskell. So an interesting one. So you can use pretty much anything to make these things.
Yeah, it's nice.
And negativeZero on the other side. This one coded in Go by the author Zoo. Counters the opponent based on the current game state. Kind of makes sense to do. So just trying to adapt to anything that's going on.
Yeah, and that's makes it pretty good against random as well, because it's you know, it doesn't have a set idea of I'm going to build these units. It's like I'm going to see what he has, and then I'm going to build units to counter that, and that works against all three races, I guess.
Yeah, definitely makes sense to have that. Well-timed pushes. Unfortunately, that is something that Xena is quite good at, particularly with certain races. The Zerg max out is quite strong. Really pushes to 200 supply and goes. And -0, 158 files with 56,000 lines of code, and doesn't use pathing and doesn't use data. Now, what does that mean by doesn't use path? Like, there must be something. Is this just like goes by whatever the game says?
Well, like if you want to get from point A to point B, you might want to create a path to get there that goes around the terrain. You may also want to create a path that gets there that goes around enemy threats, and that's like something he says he doesn't really do.
Yeah.
So
all right, just goes through the threats. Excellent. makes it more exciting. So we're going to be kicking things off on Ephemeron, and I think we are ready to jump into game number 1.
Xena. -0.
all right, -0 with the Pylon Scout. I guess that's a nice deviation when you're facing random. At least if nothing else, you can figure out what race you're up against.
Yeah, definitely is good. And Xena does end up spawning as the Zerg, which I think is the strongest of the three for Xena.
Yeah, I mean, and then there's always that potential where if you attack early as a random Zerg, you have that advantage of there not being a low ground wall off because -0 doesn't know he was supposed to make a low ground wall off because he didn't know he was playing Zerg.
Yeah, exactly. There is definitely some impetus there to get going. Xena starting the spawning pool, and there is building at the top of the ramp there, but looks like we're going to get a low ground Nexus. Unfortunately, Nexuses cannot float into place. You can warp them from halfway across the galaxy, but wherever you put it, that's where it is.
How does it even work? Is it constructed somewhere else so then they warp it across the galaxy, or
that's
the
warping impression
construct
I always get. Yeah, maybe like they just load a brick at the time through the portal. Maybe. Yeah, I don't know.
It's like Statue of Liberty. It's like pre-assembled, and then you gotta reassemble it at the location.
Something like that. Protest technology, very elusive.
I don't know how come Zealots get to come back to life, but if he dies a Dragoon, you're dead forever.
Yeah, it's just class warfare. I don't know. Although you'd think Zealots might be the lowest. Which one gets transitioned to an Immortal? Is it the Immortal that's the dead Zealot?
I thought it was the Dragoon, although that doesn't really work for
yeah.
StarCraft 2 lore, I don't think.
Yeah.
But and then there's like Templar who have to commit suicide just because someone wants a big beast with lots of shields.
Makes sense. Makes sense. I wonder if they're like whose personality dominates in that situation.
Is it like a master-slave relationship, or is it?
It might be different whether it's like too high and too dark, or one high and one dark. Like that's different flavor, because that used to be in Brood War. That was different. Now they just morph into the same thing. But there used to be the Archon and the Dark Archon.
Yep. They should bring back the Dark Archon just for the memes of
cool.
Taking over your opponent's units.
Yeah. It is more fun. It is fun.
That's one thing I liked about Brood War is if you took control of your opponent, like a worker from the opponent's race, you actually got to get another 200 supply from that race.
Yeah.
Or whatever the max supply is in Brood War.
Maybe mechanic,
it's 100.
Yeah, it almost
so you can
treated
make
it
double
like a
army
different
size if
team.
you, yeah.
Yeah. So Xena is moving across quickly here with a bunch of early army units, and they are definitely outnumbering what our Protoss player has.
Yeah, and then there's the no wall off too. Again, this is a situation I think -0 would be able to handle easily versus Zerg, but against random Zerg, he doesn't have that natural wall.
Yeah, and does a really good job there of surrounding the probes and picking them off and trying to get behind the Zealot here now, which it does. The shield battery trying to help out. Xena is transitioning, but I don't know if that's even necessary at this point as they push in. And the Void Ray, while it cannot be attacked back, really lasts, so really takes a long time to kill this stuff. Shield battery doing pretty well, but will eventually run out. And yeah, we may have a quick game one here. A wave of a Zealot and 2 Adepts get out, but I think the damage is done.
Yeah,
some
so I
will
realized I was
live.
talking on mute there for a second.
Yeah. we could hear the dog or
Yeah.
bear or something in the background, but yeah. So pretty much all the workers dead. May end up cleaning this up by virtue of the Void Ray, but there's a second wave ready to come in and get rid of everything else.
Yeah, I mean the transition thing made me think maybe he'd be able to slowly clean it up with the Void Ray, but there's just all these lings getting in there. Yeah, you almost need like a different build order as in TVP or Protoss versus random, just to make sure you got the wall in the right place.
Yeah, Void Ray putting in some work. Probably has a lot of kills on that, but eventually this is going to tick down. Yeah. Also, we had that situation where the Protoss is stuck on gas mining, and so no minerals are going to come in anymore.
Yeah, that's maybe something that -0 can work on. Is always changing his gas intake based on his needs.
Yeah,
it looks like he's no, never mind. Yeah, maybe next patch. I mean, with the energy overcharge, you can basically do the same thing with the Void Ray, but with an Oracle. And have like infinite energy on the Oracle.
Yeah.
And that can actually kill Zerglings super fast.
Yeah, that is a lot quicker. You just kind of run out of firepower.
I just want to say it's a 10-minute mark, and the creep spread is already inside the main base of -0.
Yeah, nothing's slowing it down. So, yeah, quick one there. Yeah, so, I mean, yeah, that's the biggest threat of the Zerg. That you can have those early pushes, and that wasn't really like an all-in or anything. That was just that could have not worked, and it would have been still fine. That Xena would have just kind of continued on, but good at taking the poke there, and definitely makes sense. So we're going to be on Acropolis next, and always the thing that we talk about between is more like, okay, how's the map going to change the next game? But given that we don't know the race, it's a lot harder to call that out or predict it. I want to see at least one PvP in this, if we can, to kind of see them on equal footing, and neither of them can like super surprise the other.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean Zerg, it's probably going to work out really well for Xena if he can keep pulling it. I think that low ground wall off. Maybe -0 does like a random choice on where to wall off based on the race he's up against, or maybe he just plays the odds. 2 or 3 times I want the wall off on the main ramp.
Yeah, and figures that'll work out better.
But even if Xena pulls not a race, we know Xena has some cheesy builds that will probably have some success versus -0. So, and actually on the ladder right now, I've noticed Xena's second place. So, yeah, it's getting pretty strong.
Nice. Yes, definitely good getting rounded out, filling in those gaps. Like Draken was pointing out, never quite content with the way things are, and getting better and better each time. But again, -0 is usually the one to beat. So can he stabilize in this, or is it a unique problem when you are facing a random bot that it's just hard to get your foot in the right place to start with? But we'll hop into game number 2 and find out.
Xena. -0.
We do kind of have an unwritten rule in the bot meta where we don't read the.
Yeah.
We don't counter off of what's said in chat, but Xena does announce his race in chat, which is kind of funny.
Yeah.
GLHF with a little Terran icon.
I think we've seen. Yeah, was it Sharkbot that lies?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he lies.
Yeah.
That's, 1 in 3
that's the way
chances
to
the
go,
truth,
too.
but
Yeah, which is important because we were theorizing on that of like, does it omit? Does it always lie, and therefore it's not the one? But it apparently just randomly says it.
Oh, can we even see the name of that cafe? I felt like we could almost read the banner.
Yeah, I forget it is on the awning. I
ID
forget.
something?
It's like Paul's Cafe or something. It's something mundane. It's like Paul's or Rick's or something like that. It's not like Xenon's.
Up the brightness.
Yeah, I can't.
We need to wait. Only this pylon. The pylon will give us vision. When the pylon finishes, we'll be able to know. We'll cut away from the key attack at that point in the game to take a look at the name.
Exactly. That'll be the important part. So yeah, nothing super cheesy or anything coming out yet. Just normal gaminess.
Yeah, I do like the second barracks out of Xena. I know for an absolute fact that -0 is a beast against mech-based play, but you know, if you get some stim bio, that's obviously then the kiting of the stalkers isn't that powerful anymore because you can just kind of gun them down really well. So the second Rax is nice to see. Maybe a big bio push could do the job versus -0. But yeah, even down 1-0, I think -0 is still the heavy favorite to win this series.
Yeah, I think it was just a matter of matchups and openings potentially, but we'll see. Adept making its way across.
Yeah, a little wide before the bunker's done, but there's 3 Marines waiting for him, so it should be fine.
Yeah. Coming out to poke as the Shade takes a peek inside. Oh, it does actually finish as it saw I can poke at something and nobody's here.
Yeah, Marine's not cutting it off, unfortunately. If it did, it would have been able to get the kill, I think.
Yeah.
Because, you know, it has that cooldown on when it can use the Shade.
Yeah, to your point earlier, too, of sending 2 in, like, that was 4 damaged SCVs, but none of them finished off. May get one here that just slightly... No, won't actually chase it for the kill shot.
Oh, SCV is actually repairing each other. Very, very cute. I think Xeno's like thought of everything when it comes to like the tier 1 part of the game. So the initial units are really strong.
Yeah.
I remember when the author of Xena, Soupcatcher, when he made his first bot, Zoe, all he did was spend all of his time just building the mining. He spent like 3 months like perfecting mining with a StarCraft bot.
I guess if that's the only thing your bot does automatically, then it's the intuitive best place to work on first.
Yeah, well, he's the one who really perfected the speed mining, and then, you know, stacking up on bases and expanding and stuff. But it does mean like when he did finally create the rest of his bot, Zoe immediately jumped from like the bottom of the ladder to like 2nd place, I think, behind Eris at the time.
Got to work on the fundamentals. Dribbling.
Yeah.
Dribbling before in the leg, between the leg crossovers.
I guess whatever keeps you interested.
Yeah, exactly.
I was the opposite, where I was like working on strategy from like day one. It's like, I don't know how to call down mules yet, but let me like work on this like Banshee micro.
that would tend to be my motivator too. And it's interesting seeing like the different people that come into this scene and kind of what their, I think people either come in with like a I just want to learn to code, or they come in with like a premise. Get the fight here at the front, and really good control of the stalkers by negatizeZero. So it's pushing in and whittling down these Marines.
Yeah. Besides the one stalker that blinked forward, it's like between the blink and the prism pickups. I don't think he's lost a single stalker yet.
Yeah, really good control, and you've got more room when you're kind of the one on the outside pushing in. You've got more room to micro back. Your Marauders joining, but they're not going to commit at this point. It's just too overwhelming. And it looks like negatizeZero is going to clean up the natural.
Yeah, very well done by negatizeZero, showing how strong his stalker micro is. Unfortunately, that bunker was like, doesn't look like there was code to ever load the bunker. So
yeah,
there's all this fighting near the bunker with
there.
Marines, but none of the Marines actually went inside the bunker.
Yeah. Yeah, negatizeZero, pure aggression now as Xena is looking for places to run, but there aren't any. I mean, that's one thing, like it constantly comes up, is there a way to code in don't retreat mechanics that work well? Like that basically say like under these conditions, I need to make some sort of last stand. I don't care that I'm outnumbered. I need to attempt something. And I think in some cases it may just be a hard problem that by the time you're in that situation, you're probably dead. So it's a matter of investing your resources into it, like your literal people resources in terms of time spent versus the return you'll get. But it's something that consistently bots have not been great at having like a, I must defend this third or else I lose anyway, so I'm not going to retreat.
Yeah. I mean, a little of that might be that the bots are actually smarter than us too. Like we see a position where like, hey, you have to attack, and the bot knows like if I attack, I'm going to lose anyways.
Anyway. Yeah.
So as a human, we're like, well, it's better if the loss looks less overwhelming.
Right, and it doesn't care. Yeah.
But then sometimes the bot's just straight up wrong. We're like, if you engage there, maybe you actually win the fight and you don't lose the game.
Yeah. Makes
the
sense.
thing that always that really bugs me is when bots hold back from attacking, but while they're holding back, they're losing units.
Yes.
It's like if you're going to hold back, at least keep everything alive until you think you're ready.
Yeah.
If you're bleeding units while that's happening, then it's no good.
Yeah. Exactly. So we're 1-1 at the moment, and let's hop into game number 3.
Xena. negatizeZero.
All right, nice diversity of races we're getting here.
Exactly. It is good. It's like a commercial from 2023. Unlike American Eagle, which apparently is bad for some reason, to like 2% of people. What I was saying before we got that conclusive attack last game was there's a few different like motivations that get people into this, and like sometimes it's coding stuff that I have ideas for like coding something. Sometimes it's just general interest. I want to learn something, but very often it's strategy driven, or like I find that anytime a player that does play a lot of StarCraft it's usually motivated by I have an idea, I have a strategy that I think would do well in this sort of environment. And that was the case like with Scarlet, maybe with yourself, that I think if we do this type of thing, then a 4-gate could be executed really, really quickly, and therefore we could do this. Or Ravens would be very confusing to another bot, so maybe this is a strategy. So it's neat seeing the different motivations of people that kind of come from the game perspective and people that come from the coding world and basically didn't even know the game, but thought it was a neat challenge.
Yeah, shockingly, I actually decided that Ravens would not work in the bot meta.
Oh yeah.
I was thinking like as soon as you throw out an auto turret, your opponent would just sit outside of range and wait for it to expire.
Yeah.
So it took Bomb Shaker to be the initial person to go Mass Raven, and I'm like, oh okay, he's proven the concept. Now I'll do it with my bot.
Yeah. I think it's almost that type of behavior itself that is what could make it work. Is it like whenever there's something that prompts a decision of like, okay, I'm going to back off then. Like it's that exploiting that computery thinking of like, yeah, there is no benefit to me killing this turret.
And the thing is, like when I use Mass Ravens as a human, like there is no hotkey for your auto turrets, so you got to place all the auto turrets and then control click one of the auto turrets to select them, and then only then can you start focus firing.
Yeah.
But with a bot, as you're placing them on the ground, they're all individually targeting like the lowest hit point targets and picking off the key units.
Yeah.
And that makes auto turrets so much more powerful than I'm used to.
Yeah.
Adept getting away there with one hit remaining. Very nice out of -0. Immortal's on the way, which is going to be a nice counter for this mass stalker style. And Adept even getting in the back, disrupting the mining a ton, even getting some probe kills.
Trying to survive, will get taken out.
Was it taken out?
I don't know. It was very close. It looks.
I think I see it on the minimap.
Yeah, I see it there too. I thought it was dead, but that is the escape. Yep.
So he's got 2 Adepts that have like 1 hit point.
Yeah.
But even if it died, that was a really good value.
Yeah.
Killing like 2 probes and turning off the mining for like 10 seconds. It looks like Xena's going to try a proxy 4-gate sort of push here, but he's going to be greeted with a good amount of stalkers, 1 immortal, and most importantly, a high ground advantage. 2 immortals now.
Two immortals is now the most important. Yeah. Coming into a shredder here, Xena will get everything picked off and not really lose anything on -0 side.
No. Losing some hit points on one of the immortals, but yeah. That is very one-sided.
Yeah. 24 army supply to 6 as the injured brave adept comes to try and help. Will he die? Yeah. Finally.
So I'm guessing that's probably going to be the only good attempt for Xena to win this game. I think every attempt afterwards is going to be just a weaker version of the same thing.
Yeah.
Immortal count is now up to 3. Maybe there's a point where -0 tries to expand and leaves himself a little bit vulnerable, but I mean, even his stalker count is higher at the moment, so.
Yeah, I think he's just going to push out now potentially. And
that's true.
yeah, they'll smack into each other here. Although, is he just moving out to expand? No.
That's a good question. Yeah, probably the counter push is the way to go.
Yeah.
I know Mind Me, the author of -0, said in the past that in PvP, whoever expands loses the game. So that's his premise.
Yeah, that's long been the case in the human games as well. Is the first to like deviate is the one that dies.
I remember way back in the day when Warpgate had like no disadvantage. Basically, it was like, are you doing a 4-gate or are you doing a defensive 4-gate? Those are the only 2 ways you could play PvP.
Yeah, the whole games just came down to seconds on who did that, and some of the early maps that had no ramps and stuff like that was just kind of crazy.
Yeah. No ramps, like fast warp-ins off of like a single pylon.
Yeah. Charge in.
All right, we do have another victory here for -0, taking the 2-1 lead.
Yeah, so we've got one view of each race from Xena, and obviously, kind of as predicted, the Zerg ended up being the strongest of those. In that, I think, again, like you pointed out, it's the hardest one to counter blindly if you don't know what you're facing. So that definitely adds some challenge, and can -0 finish it off. The other thing, of course, is, there we got the proxy attempt. Would Xena be better off playing into a later macro game? or something there. And hard to say. negatizeZero is definitely really good at both styles, whether it's an early game push or later game thing. It's pretty dominant, so you don't know if you're playing into its hand or not. But I think Xena at this point just kind of maybe hopes to roll Zerg again and see if that works.
Yeah. And one of the advantages to being almost unbeatable on the ladder, as negatizeZero is that like when you do lose, you can kind of focus your efforts on fixing
that thing.
So I'm thinking like Xena, you know, he probably has like at least 3 different cheeses with each of these races, so that's like 9 different cheeses. But if he's ever used them on the ladder, I guarantee you that that MindMe has like checked it out and said, what can I do to make sure I don't lose to this again? So it's gonna be hard to surprise him with the cheese. It might come down to getting that that Zerg surprise without the low ground wall.
Very true, very true. So yeah, we'll hop into game number 4, see if negatizeZero is closing this out or if Xena is taking it to the final match.
Xena. -0.
Yeah, a little interesting there. I was reading the text from Xena, and it appears it's doing a bio build again. But I'm also noticing there's a proxy marauder build in there that has like a 33% win rate, which is
that would
incredible if that means it's against negatizeZero. That would make him one of the most successful bots versus negatizeZero. So a little shocked for not seeing that proxy marauder thing, especially as I think he lost to this. This might have been the same build from game 2, the bio build. I'm not sure. Maybe this is more of a 1-base variant. I don't know.
Yeah, the proxy marauder definitely could be good. I find, negatizeZero often is a little understaffed early on.
That's so neat. Negatives, like as the probe passes the gas geyser,
it takes it, or
Xena blocks it with his SCV, so it can't be stolen.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, man, Xena's like the perfect bot, but only for the first 5 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
There's so many things he does better than everyone else. That's why I think there's potential that we might be seeing Xena as a future champion, and maybe even this season. You never know.
Yep. Could it's only 2 games. If we get a win here, then everything's up in the air.
Expansion timings are fairly similar. Xena actually expanding first, so that puts him in an economic lead. Typically, the Protoss expands before the Terran, because the Terran has to invest in an orbital and will have less workers and whatnot. So yeah, that could work out well for Xena if he can deny the Adept harass really well, which you can get lucky with. Then that will mean a bigger economy for when he does push out.
Yeah, definitely we get a bunker going up front, so it doesn't seem like it's going to be a bio push super soon. We're going to stabilize a bit. And Twilight coming for negatizeZero, as has been foreseen.
Yeah, the funny thing is I kind of complained in that previous game of how Xena never loaded his bunker, so it wasn't that useful.
Yeah.
But I forgot that in the API you can't tell if the bunker has units in it or not.
Yeah.
So it still works as a 400 hit point shield, because I bet you negatizeZero focuses it down first.
Yeah, makes sense. Yeah, it's a way to pretend to double your army supply at this point.
It's the other thing. You look at it and it's like, okay, he's got 8 Marines. 4 in the bunker, 4 over there.
Yeah, but depth coming in. No reaction out of Xena until the shade actually finishes. So it's always a tiny bit of a step behind.
Yeah, I had to do some very specific code for that, where I consider the not very nice taking out the adapts, but I consider the shade a threat. So like when it's in its like last 2 seconds of shade time. But even knowing when it's the last 2 seconds of shade time is difficult, because he might have started the shade out of your vision.
Right.
So
Yeah, it's interesting. Some of those factors, things that we can see as the viewer, that is not actually known.
Yeah.
So yeah, things like that timer bar.
And if you imagine that there's like, 10 gateway units in front of the bunker, and then he sends a couple shades in, it's like, do you chase the shades or do you stay at your bunker? It's like really hard to find the right in between for that. Because if you send your whole army after the shades, then he just like trashes your front line.
Yeah, and those first couple, I mean, this is true in all games, but in like the first couple seconds of an engagement can usually decide who's really winning or not. And often that's where bots, there's almost a tiny bit of an attacker's advantage sometimes, because you get to decide when to go, and sometimes the defensive side doesn't really react properly.
Yep.
Like, the things that are in range start to get pulled, but the second part doesn't really react yet. So
this is actually a really important timing for negativeZero. I kind of missed this, I think, in game 2, but this is like such a big anti-timing for Xena, with Stim halfway done, +1 will finish around the same time as Stim, and Medevac's just starting now. Being able to wipe out the Marine counts now when the Marines are weak would be really powerful for negativeZero.
Yeah, and here they have a tendency, they want to move out here. And yeah, there's like one Marauder with this, but needs to stall out, I think, a little bit to build that up a little more. Like you said, get the stim done, get the count up a little higher, or else you're just kind of walking into a concave that is going to absorb you.
Yeah, this is also already a lot better for Xena.
Yeah.
Stim is just about done. The Medevac is out, so he got to heal his Marines back to full, the ones who got hurt by the Adept.
I think the existence of the ramp in this case, I think, is making all the difference. Before it was on flat ground and it didn't hesitate, whereas I think this time both negativeZero was hesitating coming up and Xena was hesitating going down, and now negativeZero is just going home.
Yeah. And like the best unit in the game Terran has versus both Stalkers and Immortals is Stim Marines. So if this build would ever work against negativeZero, this is going to be the time we'll see it work. Hopefully Xena moves out soon and doesn't take a third base. I would love to see this. Yeah, he stopped at 40 workers, so this has to be a 2-base push.
Yeah.
Maybe waiting on +1 to finish. Maybe waiting on
combat shield.
Combat shield. That's right.
Yeah, it would make sense. It is adding another engineering bay, so we'll continue with that. But yeah, the combat shield timing would make a lot of sense.
Yeah, adding the armory as well, so probably planning +2 upgrades. I do like how he sends out the single Marine. I noticed him doing that even when negativeZero was at the ramp, because he wasn't sure, like, is he still there? How many Stalkers does he have? Looks like negativeZero is going to do the push. This could work out well for Xena. Looks like a third base went down for Xena, however, so it's not going to be a 2-base timing. I would have loved if it were.
It'd be funny if they just pass each other, but I think they are both going the same direction, but Xena on the low ground.
Yeah, that's okay. Medevac's give the high ground vision.
Okay,
there's
this is actually really good because it splits the army a lot. So yeah, Xena charging through the middle and negativeZero having to like blink to retreat itself.
Yeah, but pretty successful retreat though. I mean, he lost maybe 3 Stalkers in the process and everything got stimmed.
Yeah,
they're Medevacs, but there's a second stim now.
And now he's kind of surrounded by accident.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think he's just going to get pulled apart here by the essentially unintentional flank of everything.
Yeah.
Had he realized that things had blinked into a dead end, then he could have cleaned those up before advancing. But instead, that whole part of the army just regrouped to behind him and made that tough.
Yeah. Okay. So the timing push didn't work, but there was that third base out of Xena, so it's not like he was all in on that. He doesn't have to win the game. Yeah, when they meet in the middle, it kind of causes... Oh, that's a really bad blink, though, for negativeZero. This is an opportunity. Xena, however, choosing to retreat, unfortunately. He had all of those Stalkers boxed in. will be losing his fourth. That's not a big deal. He'll probably get the cancel on it.
Yeah, and unfortunately with the flank, a couple of the medevacs at least died. That really are needed to regen this army.
Yeah, Xena not wanting to fight.
Yeah, no. Yeah, and I don't think he's going to change his mind on that. And I think we're going to get the kind of permanent non-committal. Although it's fighting now, but just will get petered down.
Yeah, and not really stutter stepping in too. Which,
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
mean,
you really
that's
need
kind
to
of what makes
charge
Marines
forward.
really good against stalkers, is that stalkers can't kite them. You know, they can blink once to give a little bit of distance, but Stim Marines are so much faster than stalkers that you just get on top of them. Stalkers are weak units, so.
Yep, everything is going down here, and second wave attacking the other base. And really no army supply to speak of left.
Yeah, maybe if Xena arrived at negativeZero's base, if they didn't like meet out in the middle of the map, then negativeZero wouldn't have got that massive surround and confused the pathing of Xena.
Yeah.
But Xena still, even when it was straight up fight, seemed hesitant to like really set her step forward.
Yeah, it just wasn't the type of engagement it was doing, which is, like you said, the whole key to it is that you can just charge in and just run them down to avoid this whole, blinking back and spreading out thing.
So it looks like it will be a 3-1 victory for negativeZero. There was chances there, I think, for Xena. I think the composition was good, the army size was good, just the engagement was difficult, and obviously negativeZero is not going to give you. negativeZero's not going to make any major mistakes. I mean, that was like insane the way the stalkers split up in every direction.
Yeah, very true. I mean, just really, really good control there. The blink again almost worked against him. I mean, it really did. Had Xena realized the situation, I think going through the middle where a few of them blinked off into like dead ends that they could have just been just jumped on and killed like a quarter of the army would have been good. And then, like you said, the forward blink towards the end would have been a really good opportunity. But I think, again, understanding the terrain and, hey, even though these appear to be next to each other, he's just cut off half his force. It's probably hard to realize.
Oh, yeah. Anything terrain related is very hard, especially when that terrain was literally like mineral patches in the middle of the map.
Exactly. Yeah, we've seen a lot of bots struggle with that in particular. Here's the initial game, and then then negativeZero just kind of taking over. Really, really good, solid defense here in game 3. And then finally, kind of the counter push here, and then it was eventually just a walk into the main. And then this is what I was talking about. This whole section of army, had he just backed off and killed this, they're like completely dead. They're sitting ducks, but didn't realize that that's the opportunity, and then that ends up flanking them. And killing off these medevacs in the back that thought they were safe. Getting 3 of them was pretty big.
Yeah, right there. Like, oh my gosh, there's a whole dead stalkers. Like, Stim Bio is so much stronger than stalkers if you can corner them like that. But I mean, it's really difficult though. Like, you look at that, it's like, oh, just chase them down and kill them. But like, if you don't have Stim, you can't kill stalkers. And then you can't just Stim like 3 times in a row either, because it's such a massive hit on your hit points. So meeting in the middle of the map really makes stalkers look strong.
For sure.
One thing I have to say is that was one of the most human-like games I think I've seen in a long time in ProBots. Like, in the way the movement of both bots moved in and out, and it was really back and forth. There was I can't remember, there was a Terran bot that used to be very human-like, and I can't remember the name. Densy bot. Yeah. And just watching Xena play like that, we didn't have the same kind of drop movements as we did from Densy bot, but even I felt, and Ketroc's stem forward notwithstanding, we saw, I think, very fluid in and out movement.
It's interesting, like the contrast of that, the human-like movement and then the very non-human-like decision making.
Of course, absolutely.
And the human-like movement out of Xena and the non-human-like movement out of negativeZero.
Yeah.
negativeZero like spreading
Yeah,
units
it's
all across the map in different directions. It's like, that's pretty...
But
reminds
even
me of
when
when Alpha Star did that and everyone complained.
Yeah,
It's like, humans can't do that. That's not fair.
And even when I say human-like movement, I mean the idea of like coming in and coming out, deciding to come, deciding to attack, deciding to go out. And I really, we don't have in the replay, I was rewatching this idea of negativeZero kind of waiting outside, deciding to go in, deciding to go out, whether this is a good time, and they decide to retreat. And then, them meeting in the middle and almost a wraparound. Now, you mentioned it was, I guess it is an accident, but it almost felt deliberate in a way where
it worked out incredibly well because
really well.
Nothing in Xena's code was assuming anything could hit the medevacs back there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it didn't know how to react, but yeah, it was kind of a circumstance. I guess the really good part is to even be able to do that, because a lot of people would, with that broken off side of the army, not know what to do with it.
Right.
It would either try and regroup, or it would refuse to come into what it sees as a bigger force. It wouldn't realize that it's a one collective force. So
that's what I mean.
Yeah, it was good.
When I say human movement, one of the things I really wanted to emphasize was this idea is that a lot of bots will be routed when that kind of happens, when they lose their formation. They'll be routed, they'll be scattered. I actually thought negativeZero was dead because they were broken apart and looked like, because they were retreating in all sorts of directions. From every direction they were retreating. So I'm like, wow, Xena has this because negativeZero's on the run and he's trying to blink and they're blinking into walls and they're not really together, but somehow it wrapped back around. It somehow decided I have the advantage enough to come in. When a lot of bots would have been like, okay, well, I got to retreat and I'm stuck on retreat. I'm just going to retreat until I can't retreat no more. So at some point, negativeZero assessed the situation as like, yeah, we can still win this. And decides to attack, which I think is very odd for any ProBot really to make that decision to come in and attack, even though your army's not highly concentrated. They were still very scattered, like you had obviously those flanking around, but they decided to close in, like they converged. So I found that was really impressive.
I think one of the really small tweaks that Xena could do that would make a lot of difference too would be to add in concussive shell. It's such a cheap, fast upgrade, and if every Marauder shot was like stopping a stalker from retreating, that's like basically a dead stalker. So like one little cheap upgrade could probably be another like 6 or 7 dead stalkers in that engagement.
But the thing is though, that cheap upgrade though is probably, since they have technically like 3 bots to code for and whatever, it's probably one of those things that's deep down on the list, somewhere down. Like I'm sure they've thought of it and they're like, eventually, right? I feel like you had said it, like Xena is the perfect bot 5 minutes in, because probably 5 minutes in is the easiest to code for.
Well, yeah, and it used to be almost all cheese, so that's all it was concerned about. And like a lot of the things, if you look at what it's hyper concerned with, is like, you can't steal my gas, because if you steal my gas, you've ruined the entire build, because it's a 6-minute long build. So yeah, I think things like that, whereas the more in-depth things, it was always, well, if concussive shell's not part of the cheese, then it's not part of the build. So it just wasn't put in. So I think it's things like that, but you'll get that expanding, I think, as the team continues to work on it.
Okay, so like we'll actually, there's a point I want to point on that, but we'll come back now. Let's go check out the bracket so we see how we got here and where we got to go.
Indeed. So we had at least on paper, it looked more one-sided than it was. I think on the Zozo Ketroc one, that there was opportunities there that Ketroc had to fight back, where it had the right compositions, but maybe just some of the decision-making and timing of it was there. So Zozo does end up taking that 3-0 and looking quite strong. And then negativeZero, we just saw with the 3-1 over Xena, the weakness being the Zerg matchup, but dealing quite well with the other two. And yeah, we'll find out, I guess, what negativeZero's like anti-zealot rush mechanics are like in the coming week.
Yeah, I'm really happy with this final, actually. Even though my bot got knocked out, I know, like, maybe I can get lucky and win a best of 1 versus negativeZero, but I'm never beating him in best of 7. And that's probably true of most bots, where we would just be handing the trophy to negativeZero right now. But Zozo, He could give a lot of trouble to negatizeZero.
Yeah, he's a
that
little
cheesy
bit
nonsense is really difficult to deal with as a bot author, and like no one does it better than Zozo.
And we even saw that Xena was able to take off a beat off of negatizeZero just because of the early play. So, and I like we had said, like Zozo has those in spades, and negatizeZero may find and I think there was an update. Wasn't there an update from Zozo for specific stuff for negatizeZero?
I think it did say it didn't list what it was, but did mention that it was
Yes, I'm pretty sure Zozo said they had updates specifically for negatizeZero. Let me do a quick look.
Yeah.
Oh, it wasn't Zozo, was it?
I thought it was. I thought Zozo. I read that. Yeah, I thought I did read that, but I don't know.
May not be. But I thought someone had definitely said that
someone said it.
Yeah, they were ready for. They were specific with negatizeZero. So we'll see what Zozo has. Did they though? They did have an update. They did have an update. Okay, so Zozo did update at some point during the last thing. So maybe it's just not written in our notes, but they maybe have been prepared for this final, which in itself could be pretty spicy because negatizeZero didn't update in this last update. So there is a possible advantage for Zozo coming into this finals.
Yeah.
And
well, if you're winning, it sometimes there's a risk in updating.
You know what? I forgot. That's actually a really good point to bring out because you could just break your
don't break your bot, like because you're not going to get because you're not really going to get to test it.
Oh yeah, you won't have an opportunity to really test it, right? So
especially when it's like a secret update, like it's not something you're testing out on the ladder. You really I mean, Tier was always the king of that. He'd either come up with like a build that would like crush a much better opponent, or he would completely break his bot and it would just like do nothing.
Coin flip, and that's happened actually a lot in Pro. It's actually simmered down a bit, but that was a big point. Like, updates, there were a lot of bots. You're right. I almost forgot about that when you would do the update because you thought you were gonna be sneaky and you ended up just like going 0-2 because you broke something fundamental to your bot while you were putting something sneaky inside. So that, and before we go into our little send off, one thing I did want to point out that I was listening to you guys in the cast about Xena and how they had actually hyper fixated on getting the mining down packed for 3 months. So that almost contradicts one of the things I said about like don't hyper focus, I guess, and it does come down to depends on the kind of person you are. I personally have always been a person that like quick wins give me like motivation. So definitely if you're someone who is hyper optimized and hyper fixated and you want to focus on the nitty gritty, sure.
I think it gets to kind of my follow-up point to that, which is essentially what's your thesis going into this. And if your like thesis going into this is I want to just get a bot up and running, I want to learn this, that kind of your motivation on this of like I want to get it going, I don't know how to code, I want to learn how to do this, that's a totally different thing. Whereas I think Xena probably went in with I want to make a cheese focused thing. The fundamental of that is going to be the amount of resources I have and the absolute optimization of the early game. So that's what they went in with, was I need to get the foundation of this rock solid and then I can build on it. So I think it's that, whereas then someone else might come in with like, I want to do this particular late game thing and I'm going to do this, whatever. So it makes a difference in whether you're building it in an iterative way or whether you're building it with a solid goal in mind. Like, I think you're definitely right to say set what your scope is, but if you're someone that's already like quite experienced as a coder or you're working as a team, you can set your scope pretty big if you feel like it. It's just whether or not, and what your reinforcement loop is. Like, I know that if if somebody sits down to write an entire book, the fact that takes like 2 years is not enough reward cycle for a lot of people. But if you're someone that is for you. Exactly. So I think you just know what your scope should be in order to do it. And can you go that long without the proper feedback? And then again, what's your metric for feedback? They may think that seeing my mining number increase was perfectly good feedback, like, in their own testing. So it's really what's your metric and design for yourself.
I'll add to that in a caveat. One thing is though, the ladder is a great feedback loop. I mean, and obviously for those of us, I'll kind of ironically scope out the type of person. If you're a competitive person, you probably are someone who watched StarCraft. You have probably a little competitive streak to you. And so I'm going to speak to those of you who are, I think like me, we play StarCraft, we play competitively, and you're like, you know what? This thing I have in my mind would be really cool if it wasn't a bot, because I couldn't do that myself. And so for those of you who are like that, the feedback loop that the ladder gives you is like, it's a high, right? Because you get to see what you coded, and then if it in real world, if it works. And so, for those of you who do need a good feedback loop, like a reward system, a good reinforcement reward system, aim to just, get something, scope out, very defined, getting like whether you want the bot to just attack first, and then to be able to do a build order, choose your favorite player's build order, and then just, keep
basically treat yourself as if you were a reinforcement learning algorithm.
Yes, absolutely. And again, I've seen people quit because they may spend 3 months on something and then they're like, maybe lose interest, or the worst thing is that they look at their to-do list and it's just like huge and it's never ending, because one thing you'll discover when you're building a bot, the things that you can do never stop. Like there's always something new to code in, and there's something new to fix, or there's, I'll give all you an example. Just one last thing is that when I first did my bot, Nita, there's a bot on the ladder called Nita, and they started to code their probe to like around so I couldn't drop my my natural. So then I'm like, well, do I spend time on trying to do that, or do I spend time on trying to, finish this build order? So you'll find in a finite amount of time you might have to infinite growing to-do list. And I actually stopped working on my bot for a while because I was like, oh, there's just so many things to work on. So don't get caught in that trap.
But devil's advocate, that is where, spending 3 months working on just mining actually feels really nice when you're done, because you're like, I perfected this one thing and now I can work on other things. I never have to worry about that again.
Do you though? Is it you never have? Because like I always feel like there's always something to worry about.
If you do it right, then yeah. Because like with everything else, it's like, okay, for this aspect of the game, like, let me just run one line of code that does something.
Oh yeah,
and then okay, maybe I'll write it better. And now it's like it's good for like 80% of scenarios.
Yeah,
but then like if I want to improve it, I need to kind of go back and rewrite everything.
Yeah,
it's like
that's true.
But if you just focus on one thing, like I focused a lot on my mining at one point, and now it feels great because it's like I never need to worry about saturating bases or speed mining or how many workers I have in gas or repairing. All I need to do now is grab an SCV when I want to build something and give it back when I'm done. I never have to look at that code again. Everything just kind of works there. And then I put my focus elsewhere.
I think as you become a more experienced bot author, you'll like build up robust systems, right? You'll have robust systems in your bots or modules in your bots that you can either reuse to other bots too, but it will be like the optimum version of that. Because I do it like I have like tons of code that is just like, it's good enough. Like it's just good enough for this time of my bot. Like I have a code that just essentially tells my entire army to attack. But like that's obviously that's suboptimal, right? And so
that's what I had too. Like I jumped right into like the late game, and it's like there's so many good enough things that still are hanging around in my bot.
And even just thinking about having to go back and like tear it up, because you go back and you're like, when did I code this? I'm like, what does this do again? And so that can be a little daunting. So one thing, it's addictive. But finding your own motivation, how to keep that motivation, I guess, is a challenge. I'll probably do a whole thing on it, because now that I talk about it, it's actually a lot interesting to have to think about how to keep that motivation going and how to make sure you don't get caught in feature creep of bot feature creep. Because I think that's very real. Absolutely. So as we close out our show, gentlemen, favorite games for the night between the two, Ketroc, Zozo, or Xena and negatizeZero?
I actually like that last game of Xena versus negatizeZero. I feel like Xena got everything he wanted for that build. He wasn't able to execute it to a victory, but at least he didn't get like pulled off the mineral line by like adepts, like just pulling him apart and it trashed his build. We finally got to see like exactly what that build was supposed to do for Xena.
Absolutely. Endersword?
Yeah, I kind of like that last one too, but I'll also throw in the the Ketroc Zozo game where we got a lot of the planetary tank liberator stuff, and we just didn't get the kind of engagements we wanted. But I think seeing some of that stuff work really well defensively was interesting.
Yeah.
It just kind of we got left.
Yeah, kudos to Zozo. I mean, like, he went, especially in game 1, he went to the late game behind. And I don't think a lot of people would give Zozo the advantage in that scenario versus my bot. And he just didn't make any mistakes, and my bot did, and he won the game. Yeah.
Absolutely. It was fantastic play. I'm actually really proud to see how many of these bots, because like we had said, like Zozo had come in as this very cheesy bot, and it's evolved to be very robust. Like when I saw the mothership floating about, I was like, "Ooh, spicy."
Yeah, there was no middle state either for Zozo. It was like worker rushes, zealot rushes to late game mothership.
Yeah,
like there was no
Straight to Tempest.
Yeah, there was no like stalker push in the middle. It was just to everything.
Yeah, and it's fairly clean in the way that it goes up there too. So the transition, I think the transition can be a little wonky in terms of when it transitions, when it's when its cheese has failed. But other than that, it has I would say a fairly good trigger to keep going. I thought after it didn't do the game 1, I thought for sure that Ketroc, but unfortunately your bot is a little too passive, Ketroc. So you know. No reverse countermeasures for that. But
well, I mean, he was greedy, but
my
bot was further ahead economically. That's why I thought it was impressive. Because not only was I expanding as fast as him, I had 2 macro orbitals in my main base when I was holding the Zealot Rush.
Yeah, but he was so greedy though. He was so greedy.
Yeah, but literally on a smaller economy, he beat my bot. It was very impressive.
Yeah, very much so. And so if you guys are watching, you want your own bot, like you obviously heard us talk about building your bot. We have a template in the description below. Less than 30 minutes, you can get started. So easy that if Laughing Games can't do it, I'm gonna keep that going on that line. But you can get one started, and even faster if you're using something like Cursor or Windsurf to help along. You could probably be in the ladder by the end of the day. You know, you could actually probably get something up on the ladder. A quick Zealot Rush, Zerg Rush. No, maybe Marine, Proxy Marine, maybe. Proxy is actually a little hard, but you can get something up on the ladder and you can get it planned right away. Other than that, and so by this time, Human versus ProBots, there will be a post somewhere, hopefully pinned comment for you to. We'll see how everyone's games our bots are submitted by this point. You can play against the bots yourself. Submit those replays, and we will be casting it in the finals. That will be super exciting. I'm excited to see these bots up against you guys. And yeah, if you're bronze, silver, gold, play anyways. It's okay. Like, you know, it's better than the in-game AI. I promise you that. I can promise you that. You know, and I promise you, if Sharkbot's in there, I don't know if Sharkbot's in our list, but he will not be mean to you. So and call you words that we cannot speak without getting demonetized. So give it a shot.
Machine learning chatbot.
Yeah, chatty bot.
Chatty bot. Yeah, Sharkbot is secretly Grok.
Oh god. Oh goodness. So absolutely. With that being said, last words and a sword, Ketroc.
Just that I think we're in for a pretty good final, or at least a pretty interesting one. It may be one-sided, but I don't know which side.
Is there a third place match, or just finals and?
No, just finals. Yeah,
yeah. Looking forward to the finals then.
Yeah, and that's a good way of putting it. I don't think we've ever had a -0 Zozo finals in the history of ProBots. I think this is maybe Zozo's first grand finals match, I want to say. I'd have to double check, but fantastic. So you guys are in for a treat, unlike any other. And I'm trying to think if there's anything. Oh yes, like, subscribe, all that stuff right into the thing. So by this point, you've obviously done those things. I have obviously our newsletter with all the shortcuts to help you make bots better and faster. And absolutely. All right, everybody, we'll see you not on the 16th for the grand finals. Hope I said that date right. If it's not, don't worry, it'll be linked in the. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's the 16th of August for the grand finals of ProBots. Happy coding.